Hey there guys, it looks like the patch notes for version 1.04 of Elden Ring have just gone live, and I figured I would take this quick opportunity to cover them real quick and discuss the changes that are coming with this patch as of the 19th of April. So with that said, let's just go ahead and get started here. So we have some major changes included in the last update. Additional elements added, add an option to turn camera auto rotate function on and off, and added some event phases for the NPC patches. That's interesting. Might see patches a little bit more throughout the rest of the game. I kind of like that idea. One of the best things about patches in the entire game is during the fight with Radon. If you know, you know. Okay, balance adjustments. This is going to be big to see because there's a lot of things that people do not like about the game as far as things that are considered quote-unquote OP. So let's see. Increased Colossal Swords, Colossal Weapons attack speed, and lowered their recovery time, jump attack not included. This is big because I feel like the Colossal Weapons are so incredibly not worth it because of how slow they are. This is nice. I'll have to try that out. Increase the two-handed attack damage of Colossal Swords and Colossal Weapons, jump attack not included. Oh, a little bit of buff there. That's good. That's good. Increased physical block rate and guard boost of the Colossal Sword, Colossal Weapons, Great Sword, Great Hammer, Great Axe, Great Spear, and Halberd weapon classes. Looks like they're really kind of buffing the larger pole arms and just colossal weapons in general, which is kind of cool. You don't really see them a whole lot used, so this is nice. Increase the damage of Grafted Blade Greatsword, increase the damage of Devourer's Scepter. Nice. Decrease the scaling of status effect buildup from spells and incantations of Albinoric's Staff and Dragon Communion's Seal. That is a direct nerf specifically to the dragon spells. So a lot of people I know complain like crazy about the Scarlet Rot Dragon Breath specifically. So I'm curious to see what that's like in PvP now. Decrease the effect of Great Shield Talisman for weapons with high block rates. Okay. Shorten the length of the Madness Afflicted animation. This is big because there's actually a bit of I don't know if you would call it an exploit, but basically you can trigger madness instantly in PvP with the Frenzied Burst. So with this, you might actually be able to break that. Basically, the idea is that once you land it the first time, you can just keep triggering it over and over until the enemy is dead. So with this, it might actually make it so you can't do that against players anymore. All they have to do is roll out of it. Lowered the speed of madness build-up recovery. Okay. Slightly increased FP and stamina growth rate at lower levels. Asterisk. Players will need to perform any of the following actions for the changes to be reflected. This is required only once. New characters created after this update will not require this action. You have to level up once, activate Godric's Great Rune, re-equip any armor or any, equipment, armor, and talisman, which grants bonus stat to either strength, dex, vigor, endurance, intelligence, faith, or arcane, and other enemy and weapon balance changes. In classic, absolutely classic From Software farm, they have the little other enemy and weapon balance changes, or other changes in general that they don't really talk about. So I guess we'll see what happens with that in the coming days. All right, up next we have sorcery and incantations. Upward adjustments, crystal barrage, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Gavel of Haima, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Shatter Earth, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Rock Blaster, decreased recovery time, allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Thop's Barrier, increased area of effect and slightly increased effect duration. So far it's looking like there is a lot of buffs to a lot of lesser used spells. I will say that I have seen Gavel of Haima used a little bit by a couple other players that I've played with during some of my streams, and it does do fairly well, but I will say that they all said the same thing, that it's just, as fun as it is, it's so slow. So I'm curious to see how they like it now. Next up, we have Renala's Full Moon, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Ronnie's Dark Moon, same thing. Carian Greatsword, increased cast speed at lower dexterity. So it looks like they made it so it scales a little bit better at lower, and so you end up at like a same point at a certain point in dexterity. Magma Shot, decreased FP cost and increased cast speed. Roiling Magma, increased cast speed, decreased time until magma explodes. Gelmir's Fury, slightly decrease the random nature of projectiles range and increase the damage of lava pool, increase the hitbox. Rykard's Rancor, decreased FP cost. Oracle Bubbles, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Great Oracular Bubble, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Briars of Sin, decreased recovery time, increased blood loss buildup on enemy. Briars of Punishment, decreased recovery time, increased blood loss buildup on enemy. Explosive Ghost Flame, decreased FP cost and recovery time. Tibia's Summon, increased damage and cast speed. Aspects of the Crucible Tail, decreased FP and stamina cost. Aspects of the Crucible Horns, decreased FP and stamina cost, increased cast speed. Increase the distance traveled when not charged and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. I will say that the aspect of the Crucible incantations, I used them a little bit and I was not impressed by them. So maybe these adjustments will make them a little bit more worth using. I said directly, it was my very first character. I started off with the Prophet class and I wanted to make use of incantations, and I explored these ones as well. I said that all of them cost way too much FP and stamina and were basically useless in damage for similar cost other incantations. So this is kind of nice to see. All right, Elden Stars, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Black Blade, decreased stamina consumption and decreased recovery time. Discus of Light, decreased FP cost, increased damage and cast speed. Triple Rings of Light, increased damage. Radagon's Rings of Light, decreased FP cost, increased damage and cast speed, decreased recovery time. Lightning Strike, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Honed Bolt, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like a lot of this. I know a lot of people do consider a lot of spells in the game to be OP, but there is so many that have seemed so useless. So this is kind of nice to see. The only exception to this was maybe Honed Bolt, because I know Honed Bolt in PvP specifically is something that's very useful in, you know, tagging enemies far away or finishing them off while they're healing, stuff like that. So that one may be a problem. We'll see how it, how it pans out. That's the only one so far that I feel could be problematic in this list so far. Ancient Dragon's Lightning Spear, decreased FP and stamina cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. This is a common theme, allowing the casters to easily, almost like a temporary increase in poise, so that way they're not getting staggered so easily. Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, decreased recovery time. Lanceax's Glaive, decreased FP and stamina cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. Fortisax's Lightning Spear, decreased FP and stamina cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Allows caster to withstand enemy attacks while casting more easily. A lot of that same repeated stuff there. Lowering the FP cost and stamina cost, making it so it casts faster and that you recover from it quicker as well, and then you get a little bit of like a poise boost during it. It's a very common theme where a lot of people that are casting spells are just so easily knocked out of it, even by just very light attacks. So we'll see how this pans out specifically for PvP, but also I know in PvE it's a struggle as well. So we'll see how this goes. Frozen Lightning Spear, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attack while casting. Death Lightning, decreased FP cost, increased the duration of death accumulating smoke. So it'll actually stay out there longer so you get more use out of it. O Flame, increased damage. Oh, that's great because O Flame is terrible. I wanted to have like the flamethrower off the hand effect, you know what I mean? Just go up and just burn everything at, at close range, but God, the damage was so bad. This is nice to see. Giant's Flame, take thee, decreased stamina cost. Flame of the Fell God, decreased FP cost and increased damage. That's good because that flame, that's a very expensive spell that is not worth it right now. So this is good to see. Whirl Flame, increased damage, decreased recovery time. Burn Flame, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. It looks like playing as a prophet is going to be worth it again. We'll see how. I'm really excited about this. I might have to make a prophet again. Black Flame, increased damage, and the spell can break enemies' guard more easily. Scouring Black Flame, decreased FP cost and recovery time. Increased attack range and area of effect. Black Flame Ritual, reduced FP cost and increased damage. Garank's Beast Claw, increased damage and decreased recovery time. Blood Flame Talons, decreased FP and increased cast speed, decreased recovery time. Blood Boon, increased damage, increased cast speed, and decreased effect startup time, decreased recovery time. Okay, so it's a little bit of faster startup there. That's good. Pest Threads, decreased stamina cost. Everyone loves being hit by the Pest Threads. Scarlet Aeonia, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, allows caster to more easily withstand enemy attacks while casting. And Durable Frenzy, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, decreased the random nature of projectiles range, and increased madness buildup on enemies. Inescapable Frenzy, increased cast speed. Placidusax's Ruin, decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time. Dragon Claw, decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. And then Dragon Maw, decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time, and increased cast speed, and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch when charged. And Grail's Roar, decreased FP, stamina cost, and recovery time. So as you can see with a lot of this, most of these are actually incantations. Mass majority of these are incantations. There's a lot of sorceries towards the top of the list here, and then it gets into incantations right about here. The rest of this is all incantations, so big buffs to incantations here, and then there's a good amount of sorceries from there on up. That's good to see as well, because these are definitely lesser used ones that I've seen out there, so I'm curious to see how this plays out. Okay, upward and downward adjustments. Adula's Moonblade, decreased the power of single cast and improved performance so that blades and frost hit more consistently and continuously. Increased cast speed at lower dexterity. I was killed by this a couple times, fighting the, Adula, the dragon itself, and then in PvP as well. It was easy to dodge in PvP, but if you misrolled or if they use it as a roll catch, it would decimate you. So I mean, this is, yeah, I think the right changes there. Now we have Flame Fall Upon Them, decrease the damage of single cast and improve the performance so that it hits enemies multiple times, decreased FP cost. Howl of Shabriri, decrease the madness buildup on the enemy, increase cast speed, and decrease recovery time. So you'll be able to kind of use it a little bit more often, but you're not going to have as much effect overall with those. That's fair. I feel like that's fair. Downward adjustment, Swarm of the Flies, decreased blood loss buildup. That's great because, oh my god, is that annoying. Flame of the Frenzy, decreased madness buildup, and Frenzied Burst, decreased madness buildup. I expected both of those because those things are something that a lot of people do complain about, specifically more so Frenzied Burst. Again, the whole infinite madness thing they have going on. It looks like that build specifically is being nerfed pretty hard, so take that in mind if you do use it, or if you dislike it, I'm sure you're celebrating. Okay, weapon skills upward adjustments. We have Lion's Claw, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Kick, increased cast speed. That's good because Kick is so damn slow. Horalu's Earthshaker, increased cast speed on follow-up input and decreased recovery time. Troll's Roar, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed on follow-up input, increased distance traveled. Giant's Hunt, decreased recovery time. Storm Assault, same thing, decreased recovery time. Karian Greatsword, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the damage when charged and made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Looks like the same thing with Karian Grandeur, that's good. Gravitas, increased cast speed. Flaming Strike, increase the travel distance of a stepping cleave in a strong attack. I don't think I've seen Flaming Strike myself. I'll have to look into that. Black Flame Tornado, added hitbox to weapon when spinning and added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. This is good. I noticed this the first time I used Black Flame Tornado myself. The actual weapon didn't do anything. They had to be hit basically by the actual flame itself. So actually giving something to the weapon is good. I couldn't believe the first time I used that it didn't actually do anything It actually irritated me, so I just kind of never used it again. So that's good. Lightning Slash, increased cast speed, added a hitbox to the stomp animation. Sacred Blade, increased cast speed. Sacred Ring of Light, increased cast speed. Same thing for Poisonous Mist on cast speed. Poisonous Moth Flight, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Ice Spear, added a hitbox to the weapon's spinning animation. Chilling Mist, increased cast speed. Assassin's Gambit, increased cast speed. Same thing on Shield Bash. And then Shield Crash, decreased stamina cost and increased cast speed. Blade of Gold, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Blade of Death, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Golden Tempering, decreased FP cost and increased cast speed, increased effect duration. Last Rites, increased cast speed. Same thing with Mists of Slumber. Eokai's Dancing Blade, and I do hope I pronounce Eokai correctly. If not, feel free to correct me. I'm still not sure. I think it's Eokai, but yeah, I don't truly know. Eokai's Dancing Blade, increased travel distance, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Unblockable Blade, increased cast speed with the weapon Coated Sword. This is good. The Coated Swords are very great, but as great as the Unblockable Blade is, it was pretty slow to actually get that Ash of War attack out there. So you'll be able to actually land that once in a while. It was so easy to get out of range of it. Alabaster Lord's Pull, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. It looks like they're doing that with a lot of things, which is really nice for these longer Ashes of War. You can kind of get out of them yourself if it's not like a good window. Established Order, decreased recovery time and increased cast speed on follow-up input, increased damage, made it easier to cause enemies to flinch. Moonlight Greatsword, decreased FP cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, increased the frost buildup effect during the skill duration. This one I don't know about. I have seen what Moonlight Greatsword is capable of. It hits pretty heavily. This seems like a bit of a weird buff, but maybe it's just maybe I'm a little bit biased in how I've seen it used. Maybe I've just seen it used really effectively. I don't know about that one. That one seems a little bit misplaced to me. We'll see how it goes. Wave of Gold, decreased FP cost, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Wolf's Assault, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. There are so many things. The Queen's Black Flame, increased cast speed, added a window to roll. That's very good. That's a very long one. Dynast's Finesse, decreased stamina cost. Flowing Form, same thing. Death Flare, increased cast speed. Onyx Lord's Repulsion, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Magma Guillotine, decreased stamina cost, increased cast speed, decreased recovery time to follow-up input. Cursed Blood Slice, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Ice Lightning Sword, increased cast speed, added a hitbox to the stomp animation. This is on the sword that you get from the Lake of Rot, the Dragonkin soldier there, I believe. So you don't really see that one used a whole lot. This is kind of nice to see. Ross's Summons, decreased recovery time. I Command Thee Kneel, increased cast speed, including follow-up input. Added a window to roll during the attack to cancel the animation. Goldbreaker, decreased FP cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. Familial Rancor, added a window to roll during the attack to cancel. Nebula, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time with the weapon Bastard Stars. Now this says specifically Bastard Stars. Is this not the same Ash of War on Astel's Wingblade? So it looks like maybe it's just for Bastard Stars? Maybe it's called something else. I don't know if they're actually one and the same. Regal Beast Claw, increased cast speed. Devourer of Worlds, increased cast speed. Regal Roar, decreased recovery time. Spear Call Ritual, decreased recovery time. That's really cool because that's a really great Ash of War. It's fun to use. Ancient Lightning Spear, decreased FP cost and increased cast speed. Allows players to more easily withstand enemies' attacks while casting. Great Serpent Hunt, decreased recovery time and increased damage. Allows player to more easily withstand attacks from enemies. This is interesting because this is on the spear hunt, the serpent hunting spear. This is the weapon that you're supposed to use for the fight against Rykard. So I guess that'll kind of make that a little bit easier because you can already pretty much infinitely cycle it. That fight is very easily when you know the timing. So we'll see how that goes. Frenzy Flame Thrust, decreased FP cost, decreased recovery time, decreased madness buildup on self. What is Frenzy Flame Thrust on? Is that on the fingerprint shield? The only other weapon I know of that has frenzy on it whatsoever is Vyke's War Spear, so it must be, right? Blood Boon Ritual, increased cast speed. Mikola's Ring of Light, increased cast speed. Sea of Magma, increased cast speed and decreased recovery time. Added a window to roll to cancel the attack animation. Flame Dance, decreased stamina cost, decreased recovery time. Added a window to roll during the attack animation as well. Storm Kick, decreased stamina cost, and Bear Witness, increased cast speed. That's good because, man, that weapon's bad. That's the grafted dragon fist weapon. It's not good, trust me. So this will definitely be nice to see. Okay, upward and downward adjustment. Thundercloud Form, decreased damage when not charged, decreased FP cost, increased cast speed, and decreased recovery time. I think Thundercloud Form is on the Dragon King's Cragblade. I actually used that weapon during one of my playthroughs with, on PS5 with the community co-op thing that we did here on my channel. That is such a cool weapon and a really very powerful Ash of War. People are sleeping on it like crazy. By the time we got to Melania, I was doing almost 2,000 damage with it with just a quick cast. So it was kind of insane. And I could use it, I think, 4 times on just base FP of 10 mind. So it was pretty good. Pretty good. This is an interesting thing. Decreases damage when not charged. So you have to actually hold it down for a minute. And then decrease the FP cost. And then increase cast speed and decrease recovery time. I think those are fair. Okay, bug fixes. Fixed a bug where the damage of Inescapable Frenzy was affected by right-hand weapon. Fixed a bug where the damage of the weapon art's Carian Retaliation was increased by weapon and status, and the effect was not displayed correctly during online multiplayer. The amount of times that people told me during my Elden Ring streams that Carian Retaliation was not bugged and was working as intended. Oh boy. Oh boy. There you go, Vlads. Right there. Read it and weep. Alright, fixed a bug where the animation when inflicted with blood loss and frostbite was bigger than originally planned. Fixed a bug during character appearance, change menu in which some parameter changes were sometimes not reflected. Fixed a bug that prevented a dialogue from appearing when executing leave on some items. Fixed a bug that allowed unauthorized items to be passed to other players. Fixed a bug in multiplayer that prevented Grace to be registered on the map if it was found just before the players summoned. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the mechanic of Renala, Queen of the Full Moon fight from working properly during cooperative multiplayer. That's another one, man. People say, oh, it's not bugged, it's intended. Yeah, okay, there you go. There you go. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from entering the boss area after defeating Morgott, the Omen King. Okay. Fixed a bug that prevented Edgar the Revenger, Festering Fingerprint Vyke from invading after defeating all the bosses in Liurnia of the Lake. This is good because this is actually something that it affected a few of my playthroughs, as well as I did make a guide on where to find Vyke as well, and people were constantly telling me that they could not find him, they couldn't get him to spawn. So this is a good fix. Happy to see that. We can get back to everyone getting these things done now. That's good. The item Tonic of Forgetfulness can now be obtained at the Volcano Manor if the player wasn't able to obtain it due to quest progression. Fixed a bug that caused the reduction of runes due to NPC Gothic when players died in Stormvale Castle to occur at an unintended timing. Weird. That's interesting. I didn't know that was a bug. Okay. Added a protective barrier to Millicent after helping her at Mikola's Hayleague tree so she cannot be unintentionally killed. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from obtaining the reward after defeating the Dung Eater. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented the player from progressing Dialos' quest line. I actually had that in my recent playthrough. Dialos was just not in the game whatsoever. I couldn't find him anywhere. I talked to him once and then he was gone. So this is good to see. I searched Jarburg, all of Liurnia, the Volcano Manor. he was nowhere. So this is good. This is good. Fixed a bug that sometimes prevented a player from duplicating remembrance at the walking mausoleum. Okay. Fixed a bug that prevented players from inputting consecutive attacks when dual wielding thrusting swords. Yep, I was dual wielding thrusting swords, and it would constantly make it so the inputs were just broken. I would just stop attacking. Like, what's going on here? Fixed a bug that causes Scythe to lose blood loss effect if poison affinity is applied to the weapon. Fixed a bug where the damage of the Iron Greatsword was lower than expected when affinity is applied. Fixed a bug that caused FP consumption to increase when the player cast Night Comet with charge. Fixed a bug that causes the default key setting on keyboard for weapon skill left control to not be set on PC only. Fixed a bug on the Steam version where the history of players who played multiplayer was not displayed correctly under certain circumstances. Increase online multiplayer stability. Man, I hope so, because it's been rough. Fixed a bug that caused incorrect sounds to be played under certain circumstances. Fixed a bug that caused some places on the map to have incorrect visual and hitbox. Fixed a bug that causes some enemies to have incorrect visual and behavior. Fixed a bug that caused some armor to have incorrect stats, and then text fix, and then other performance improvements and bug fixes. Apparently things not big enough to talk about, but they've been fixed and improved. Okay, so that is it for the entirety of the notes of version 1.04 of Elden Ring. This is live now. Again, this is the 19th of April. It's currently 5:30 a.m. for me, but I wanted to make quick patch notes around this, a quick video around the patch notes rather, so that everyone knew about them as quickly as possible. There's a lot of good things here. A couple adjustments that I do disagree with overall. But I will say a few major things that I am sad that are not here are things around, bleed buildup, specifically around arcane. When it comes to weapons like Reduvia, Rivers of Blood, those things are just, Rivers of Blood is a current state where you can actually apply a full stack of bleed and instantly cause blood loss with just one press of L2 if you build up enough arcane. And I feel like that's a little bit much. That should not happen, especially because it does have a pretty large range to it. So I was kind of hoping to see something there, as well as Bloodhound Step. Bloodhound Step is one of those abilities that allows you to get in or out of a situation for such a little bit of effort and an even smaller amount of actual FP. I feel like it should be a lot more expensive to use it because of how effective it is, but I didn't see anything here on it. No reduction in iframes, no reduction in range, no change in FP cost. I feel like it has to have something more expensive to it. Maybe a cooldown of some kind. It just needs something because it's so incredibly easy to just get in and out of situations with it. It's a little bit much. I was kind of hoping to see something about that, but alas, it's not here. So a little disappointed there. But overall, I do feel like these notes are great because it does bring up some things that are just pretty much not used. And the way these games are meant to work is you're meant to have a large variety of things that make sense to use in whatever situations that make sense for you. So it's really great to see overall this list of things that are being brought up instead of too many things being brought down. I do believe that's the better way to do it. But overall, pleased with what we see here. Pleased with what we see here, as well as there are some very important bug fixes here that I enjoy a lot, specifically with Edgar the Revenger and Vyke. I'm very happy about that. With that said, guys, I'm out of here for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure you leave a like on it so that way YouTube will recommend it to more like-minded folks. And I'll see you guys soon.